This is Reading Writing Workshop, page 178 for the vocabulary, and then 180 for the story. Let's start with the vocabulary. Assigned. The teacher assigned the student extra homework because he was late. What project has a teacher assigned you recently? Talk to your guide on the side about that one. Generosity. The man showed his generosity by putting $20 in the can for the charity. Which words are associated with generosity? Charity. Gingerly. The girl stepped gingerly into the waves. What is a reason why you might step gingerly? Maybe she's afraid. Maybe it's cold. Maybe there's something in there that might bite her. She's being careful. Mature. Tom's father said he was mature enough to ride the train by himself. What is an antonym for mature? Antonym means opposite. So how about immature or childish or young or inexperienced? Organizations. Students signed up for information about recycling organizations. What are some organizations in your town? Make a list, and if you know some, you can send them to me on Class Dojo. I'd like to hear about it. Organizations that you know about. Talk to your parents about that one. Residents. Mrs. Seals enjoyed talking with the residents of the nursing home. What town or city are your classmates residents of? Residents means you live there. Scattered. The sheep were scattered across the meadow. What is a synonym for scattered? In other words, a word that means the same. How about dispersed? How about just, wow. Lost. How about, I can think of several words, but just a single word. Dispersed is a good one. Separated. Not together. Selective. Tina was selective about choosing only the freshest fruits and vegetables. What are you selective about? She's selective because she wants to eat healthy. Okay, on to the story. Page 180. Remembering Hurricane Katrina. Oh, I remember Hurricane Katrina. It blew shingles off my roof. It's a shared read. The genre is realistic fiction. Essential question. In what ways can you help your community? Read about how Hector helps others after Hurricane Katrina. Leaning over my steering wheel, I watched the heavy clouds roll in. The sky became a darker shade of gray, and raindrops were soon scattered. There's a vocabulary word across my windshield. Raindrops can be scattered. A storm was coming. Glancing at the boxes of cloth stacked in the back seat, I smiled to myself. A torrential downpour of rain began beating against my windshield as lightning flickered across the sky. I pulled the car off the road until my driving visibility improved. That was wise. People on the sidewalk held purses and briefcases over their heads in a futile effort to keep from getting wet. That means it was useless. Children screamed and danced around in the downpour. The rain reminded me of another storm, 10 years earlier. Hurricane Katrina slammed into the Gulf Coast of the United States when I was 9 years old. The ferocious storm caused untold amounts of damage. One of my strongest memories from that time was watching the evening news with my aunt, as some people say. A reporter stood inside the Houston Astrodome, surrounded by thousands of people. They all shared the same weary expression. Many wore torn and dirty clothes, and some had no shoes on their feet. They slowly shuffled along, their faces full of sadness. Are they here because of the hurricane? I asked softly. Aunt Lucia nodded. See, Hector, these people are from New Orleans, Louisiana. I used to live there. Just a few days ago, Hurricane Katrina destroyed their homes and possessions, and they lost everything they owned. So now they are temporary residents of the Astrodome. It's a place for them to stay until it's safe to go home. I knew a lot about Katrina. The storm had formed in hot and humid tropical weather and then traveled north. It had come so close to Texas that I worried it would strike us in Houston. It missed us, but other cities were not so lucky. The TV news reporter looked around. People tried to speak to her, but she was being selective. That's a vocabulary word. Selective about whom she wanted to interview. I noticed a little boy sitting behind her on a cot, hugging an old teddy bear. Watching him, I knew I had to do something. The next day, my friends joined me at our volunteer club, the Houston Helpers, and together we devised a plan. We wanted to collect toys and give them to kids at the Astrodome because donating the toys would help bring some happiness into the lives of these families. Anxious to get started, we made lists of what we needed to do. Then every one of us was assigned a specific task. There's a vocabulary word. We agreed to spread the word to our schools and other organizations. Aha, another vocabulary word. 3 days later, after a Herculean, that comes from the word Hercules, Herculean effort, that means really strong effort. Herculean effort on our part, the donation bins were overflowing with new toys. I'll never forget the day when we entered the Astrodome with our gifts. Children flew toward us from all directions. Smiles lit up their faces as we pulled toys from our bags. Grateful parents thanked us for our generosity, vocabulary word, and complimented our group leaders on how thoughtful and mature we all were. They were grown up. Bzzz, my cell phone jolted me back to the present, and I noticed that the storm had passed. Hector, see, yes, hi, Jeannie. Do you have the donations? A few more families have arrived. More victims of yesterday's tornado. Yes, I have the clothing donations. The storm delayed me, but I'll be there soon. There's a vocabulary word, I gingerly eased my car into the sudden busy traffic. It felt good to know that I was making a difference again. Making connections. Talk about how Hector and his friends make a difference in their community. Essential question. What are some things that you have done to help your school or community? Text to self. This story is really personal to me because I used to live in New Orleans, and when Hurricane Katrina hit there, I was very sad for the people and trying to find out what was happening to people in New Orleans. That's me personally, Mr. Johnson. So it's cool that this young boy, Hector, who helped people during that time, 10 years later when he's grown up, is helping people again. Ha ha. That's cool.